this is Lily Tang Williams. Welcome back. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Ping, who also is from China, and my home Sichuan province. He has a PhD in electrical engineering, but has been doing, educational studies and even published a book on Our Children Are Not Prepared. So today he's going to tell us his perspective on American educational system problems and the root cause. So welcome back, Dr. Ping, and go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience who don't know you yet.
Well, thank you, Lily. Yeah, like you, I grew up during the Cultural Revolution, and so we know the evilness of communism. Even though they, as an ideology, it sounds good, but in reality, always ends in dictatorship. And I went to Canada for my graduate study and got my PhD in electrical engineering, and then I came to Indiana to work as an engineer from 1995 to 2011. And so in 2010, I felt a calling from God to get into education. So, and I really, when I was working as an engineer, I saw there is serious shortage of engineers, and so that many companies has to hire from outside. In that way, that's how I became a United. I got my green card. I become a United States citizen. Is because as America as a country, we don't have enough engineering students in the pipeline, and that has a lot to do with our education. So I just kind of felt like God wanted me to do something there. And in 2011, I became a math teacher. So I taught in a private college prep school, and it's a Christian school. So I saw a problem within. And in 2018, I left that school and started my own ministry called Poema Institute. Is to really to trying to find the right education model.
So get back to your wonderful experience in education. You feel the calling to get involved. In your eyes today, what are the top 3 problems you see with the American education system?
Yeah, so for one thing is that, especially in terms of math education, is that most teachers are not qualified. And we just couldn't find people who are good at math into teaching. And that's one problem. And another problem is Americans' public education, it's run as a socialist enterprise. Teachers' pay is based on their seniority, not based on their talent, not based on their how good they are. And as you and I know, in that kind of system, good people can never be promoted, and then the good people will leave. So eventually you have people who just been there for a while, and people who don't want, not even doing good job, but they get tenure, so you cannot fire them. And one of the things actually is personal to me is when my son was in middle school and high school. It's public school, which is actually one of the best schools in Indiana. But their measure is not good. I mean, everybody knows that she's not qualified, but they couldn't let her go because her seniority. So basically, in a way, she was protected by the union. So you have a socialist enterprise, then you have a strong teachers union. So that makes things, so the good people can never actually get into this education. Most of the people, they just there. I think as you and I, we know, we've been through the Cultural Revolution, and so in that kind of socialist system that people just don't do the work. And people actually...
Not strong incentives, right? Human beings need strong incentives to perform their best.
Right. And like for example, the reason it's hard to get a good math teacher is because people who are good in math, they can go to other field and make a lot of money, way more money. But as a math teacher, you basically get paid in the same pay scale as people who really is teaching social science. Teaching social science and those kind of areas. So it's very hard to get the talent to get in to teach math. But the reason for that is because that's a socialist enterprise. The teachers union will make sure, it's paid by, not based on the free market, because if you base on the free market, you should pay math teacher a lot more than teachers who teach social science or social studies. But that won't happen because our public education system, even the private education system, have same problem. That is, it's not based on free market principles. So that's number two. And number three is our education system is outdated because our American's public school system was designed almost 200 years ago. And also, especially in the past 100 years, that was designed in such a way, actually based on assembly line model, based on the industry model. That's where you see that going from one level to another, and people are grouped in the same degree level. They just move on, and kind of like assembly line, and eventually they get out of it. I mean, if you're not fit in the model, everything is standardized. If you don't fit in the model, then you'll be considered as a defect. But that model work in the past is because we need a lot of blue collar and white collar workers. But now we really don't need them. At least we don't need that many of them. And that's why, especially now, we're talking about artificial intelligence, talking about ChatGPT, and this is a concern that this will replace white collar workers, and even like some software engineers. But that's the trend, because of technology, because we have artificial intelligence, we have robotics, those advancement, and also because of the internet, and you can many things you can get from the internet, and also the internet allow employers to hire people all over the world, and so America's in this kind of system, which is outdated, and also students graduate from that, they are facing competitions globally. So that's why, in a way, a lot of people. First of all, a lot of people don't get many students. They don't get the right kind of education because most of the teachers are not qualified, and also because they are facing competitions from all over the world. And so that's where
the problems you mentioned that is teachers' qualities.
Yeah.
And as American educational problems, and also the model, the operational model is very outdated,
Right.
very old, cannot adapt to today's rapid,
Right.
development of like information age.
Right.
And we cannot compete. Our students cannot compete with the
Right.
same model when they come out school. And what is the third problem you say?
Well, actually, second problem is that our education system is run as a socialist enterprise.
Okay, so that's the operational model, yeah.
Right. The second one is the system itself that is outdated.
So you got a problem with how teachers are hired, paid, and trained, and
Right.
then the public schools, government schools are running kind of like a socialist enterprise,
Right.
and there are no incentives to perform. And
Right.
if you're teaching math, science, or similar skill with other major pays, and those people can go make more money somewhere else, so
Right.
they might not become a teacher. So
Right.
that's just the kind of like there's no pay scale based on free market, demand, supply.
Right.
And in terms of also compensation too. And
Right.
the third one you talk about model is based on almost 200 years ago from
Right.
industrialization and
Right.
and not adapted to today's internet world.
Right. Yeah.
And our kids cannot compete and are not prepared even to deal with maybe some other countries, their graduates. So
Yeah.
you outline those three problems. And what do you think the root of cause that is?
Actually, I would say those, in a way, those are the causes. But the root cause is that this system itself is really outdated. And there's another problem we are facing is that our education system has been, in a way, hijacked by the communists. And that's something I started to realize 2 years ago. I think, as you know, that when we trying to find out what is going on, why our kids are not educated, why they are so behind, even though we spend a lot of money on that. But the way you look into that, I mean, at least that's how I see is that when you look into that, those are done by design. It's not done because they couldn't do the job. But there's a purpose for them to dumb down the students so that they can be used as pawns to advance, the communist agenda.
you and I both are immigrants from People's Republic of China,
Right.
and we know that the parents' rights did not exist. I mean, still don't exist today, China.
Right.
And one party control all educations, all classroom, basically all the teachers also work for government. And then it's a very centralized, top-down, from the educational ministry of China.
Right.
And we have Department of Education in the U.S. government. And then even though, in some local school board can decide like what curriculum they're going to use. But do you remember Common Core when Obama offered federal dollars to give incentives for the state to adopt basically Common Core standards, and later they passed the federal bill, ESA, to codify Common Core. If you don't adopt that, you want to have your own state standards, then you have to get approval, and there might be consequences. It's very difficult. So basically, this centralization of education model is not rigorous. As aging Americans, we all value education, and we want the best quality education for our children. And we expect excellence from our kids. But now you see this equity agenda, and the work agenda in our schools, and they're canceling honor classes, and basically canceling academic high achieving students, and make everybody performing less. It's crazy that we know this equity is a communist term. So when you say this is like communists taking over our schools, because they want equity, because the honor classes don't have enough people of color, so Asians are not people of color anymore, and the whites are not color, so they want to equal outcome. So that's very concerning, right? I mean, our kids, if they're high achieving, they're boarding schools, and they don't feel like individual merits matter, so they can go back home to tell their aging parents, hey, don't blame me. I cannot do much. I cannot even take honor classes. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been going on for a while. Like my son is 27 now. When he was like in elementary school and middle school, and he was not challenged, and their school just had nothing there. Even though he later on he got like honor plus, but still not is challenging enough. And this is something going on in America that in America we actually, as education system, we put the resources to the people on the bottom, people who really behind, and most people do not want to learn, but we put all the resources into them. You got counselors, you got all kinds of people trying to help them, but we ignore the people, the high achievers, the people who wants to learn. And this is actually only kind of, for our Asian parents, it doesn't make sense, because in countries in Asia, like you're talking about Japan, Korea, even China, all these resources are going towards the people who are smart and who work hard. And so that way, then you're going to have the talents for the country. But in America, we're doing the opposite. And so that we don't have people actually being challenged enough. We don't graduate people who can go to engineering, go to science, and all that. And in the past, I thought maybe just they didn't do things right. But in the last 2 years, I start to realize, and that is exactly what the communists want. They want to dumb down American students. They actually want to make sure those kids don't have a good future. And if we don't have a good future, then those kids will become the pawns in the political game, because we are a democratic country. If those kids can give them votes, then that's where they can get power. But in order for them to do that, they have to make sure those kids have no future. And so those kids can vote them, will help them get to power.
So you're saying that by dumb down on students, make them feel like victims, no future, and rely on government, and come out, become citizens in the 18, and vote for more government, bigger government, more government spending. Basically, you become government dependent. And that's how they can destroy a good economy and destroy, a society is based on individual merits, meritocracy, and excellence, and the whole society will benefit, from that kind of system. And our kids are learning equity, diversity, inclusion, and transgenderism, critical race theory, 1619 Project. America is bad country, racist country. So as immigrants, we see that it's like, it's like a similar tactics that identity politics in order to destroy a culture or society. so everybody can participate this so-called woke revolution, and to destroy America we come to love, and we come here for freedom, prosperity, and for excellence. But now we feel like it's scary to go down this path.
Right, exactly, exactly. Actually, the whole thing started. I did my second book is called A Spectre is Haunting America. It's talking about communist take over America, and if you look the history of it, and it's go back as far as the 30s in last century, is by this guy called Antonio Gramsci, and he came up with this idea. Later on, people call it cultural Marxism. So his idea is that we cannot, in order for communism to succeed in Western countries, they cannot use the force. They cannot do as Lenin in Russia and Mao in China, because those are kind of very backward, and they don't have very strong civil society. They don't have a strong church. But in America or in Europe, the way they want to get on power is to infiltrate those institutions. So he actually in his book he's talking about education. Education is one of the five institutions the communists will infiltrate. And in the 60s, during the student movement in America, and I forgot the guy's name. He actually basically he used one word, not one word, one phrase to summarize Gramsci's strategy. Is called long march through institutions. So they take a long turn, like instead of like to have a revolution, just like in Russia and China, you overthrow the government. They said they're going to take a long turn, take years, but they gradually, through education, they can take control of the higher education. They can take control of the media. They can take control of the entertainment industry, and therefore, once you get all the controls, then you can manipulate the young people to support them and to get power that way. So they didn't hide it. If you want to do the research, it's out there. Especially now in the internet information age, you find it. They never hide it. It's like we didn't take them serious. Like the conservative didn't take them serious. For example, when my wife went to Indiana University, work on her master's degree in education. So IU school education is one of the top in the nation, and her professor told them that their job is to make social activists. So that's where so that's kind of waking me up when I heard about that. Is that they are not really about educating the kids. They want to turn those kids into revolutionaries. Turn them into radicals, which we know what happened in China, and then use them to get power.
Well, if you look at like a NEA, National Education Association, their big teacher union website last June, it says they're gonna push down the critical race theory in 14,000 school districts. And the Biden federal government administration offered federal dollars to push for also CRT and also gender affirming education. I wonder why in my own town, a red town, like a school district, you have those children's books, all full of those ideologies, but the thing is lots of parents don't know, and they don't show up at the school board meetings. And so now we have a local election coming, like March 14th. We're trying to expose what's going on inside our schools and get parents get involved and needs to show up to vote, because our local elections only like a turnout vote is like the rate is only 30%. So that it's very concerning, because like you said, the communist, socialist, Marxist people are working on this for 40 years. And like our video last week talk about the Marxists taking over our libraries. Xi Wanfli was saying they have taken over lots of institutions, lots of institutions. And now we're just waking up to say what's going on in our school libraries and public libraries.
Right.
So I'm glad you and your wife really experienced that firsthand. So what are your solutions you want to propose to solve this problem?
Right. So as you know, I worked as an engineer for many years. So basically, I was thinking from engineer perspective, how can we doing something different? Like when you're something outdated, out of league, obsolete, you're not going to work on it, right? You're not going to make it better. Just like an old typewriter, if typewriter is broken, I mean, well, you can repair it, but why should you? I mean, nowadays you can have a laptop, you can have a tablet, you can have a phone to access information. So that's how I can think, because our education was created, at the time for the Industrial Revolution, the industry and also the military, they need educated workforce. But now we don't have the need that, and because the technology advanced and AIs and robotics, we see that it replaced a lot of blue collar and white collar workers. So therefore, we're going to do education in a different way. And because now what we need is people who can go out to start their own business, or at least think as a business owner. Like when they actually, even if they go to school, they have to make the calculation on the return on investment instead of just like going on to get student loan and then going to pay that in the rest of their life. Most students young people now, they don't have that knowledge. So I'm kind of thinking we got to teach in a different way, but also we also cannot use the current the model. We have to break it down. We actually have to use the principles of free market. And you and I know the only reason the Chinese people got rich since the 80s and the 90s last year is because the Chinese government decided to embrace the capitalist economy. So allow a lot of people to start their own business. And because of that, because of free market, that's how Chinese people got rich. We're going to use the same model. We cannot use the socialist model in our education. We have to use the capitalist model. And so my idea, is to start like small schools. So I had this idea because before the micro school became fashionable. At that time, I just called like teachers-owned small schools. So that way, the teachers' incentive is tied to the success of school. And right now, we don't have that incentive. I mean, the teacher doesn't have to do a good job, because whether or not the school is good has nothing to do with her. And whether or not the students, the graduates, whether or not they are successful has not to do with the teachers and has not to do with the school in a way, especially the public school. So this way, you have small enough a school and the teacher actually owning that, then their incentive is tied to the success of students. And then because now we can do it, is because we are in the information age, and there's a lot of things out there, and the teacher actually can learn on their own. I think that not teachers, the students can learn on their own. Actually, it's the teacher's responsibility is to teach the student how to learn on their own. Once they can learn on their own, they can learn all kinds of subjects, and that way, I think then the parents has a choice. They can either send to school A or school B or school C or school D, and depends on their kids' interests and talents. So if your kids wants to be engineer, you send to a school which is specialized on that. Or if you teach kids like to get into arts, then you go to school that is specialized on that. So anyway, it just kind of, I had this idea in 2018. I know it's kind of hard, but I think, but there's something I think it will work, especially now after the pandemic. A lot of parents, a lot of parents now realize that their kids are not prepared in school. The school does not give them the right kind of education.
Well, like our school system here, as I said, we spend almost like near $19,000 per year per student,
Right.
and from basically preschool all the way to like a high school.
Right.
Guess what? I mean, like their math proficiency rate 26% in the state. General speaking is below 50%, and math is 26. The rating is 40%. That's lots of money for getting this total, like basically failure scores.
Right.
And we don't have, our state do have a school choice and have an educational freedom account where the state money about $5,000 a year follow parents and students' choice to the school, to homeschool, to private school, or they can go to charter school. But the thing is though, the Democrats and they're trying to constantly like propose their own bills and to repeal some of that. And sometimes I wonder if for the minorities that for the students cannot do well in the public schools, why do you think the Democrats, they always claim, oh, they're for the poor people, for the immigrants, and for the minorities? But if you look at lots and lots of big blue cities and big blue states, minority kids, they don't perform well, and they're trapped inside of their inner city failure schools, and they're stuck. They do not even allow to have a school choice. Like a DC shut down the school voucher program. So how can those people realize they once claim trying to help them and use them for political gains actually are the ones who shut down, close doors for those kids who want to achieve, get a good education, then get out of poverty. It's like, do people know the truth? Who are the ones who shut down because the Democrats are in the pockets of unions, teachers unions?
But definitely you have teachers unions working with the Democratic government. And also Democrats need poor people. You think about that. If there are more poor people, they got more power. Now, if the people who get rich, they are not going to vote for Democrat. Especially if, you and I know in the Chinese community, and there's a shift for people who move towards the Republicans. That's because they were successful. That if you are poor and you're stuck in a welfare system, then you're going to vote for Democrats. So it's definitely to their self-interest to keep people poor. And also the way to keep the people poor is to make sure they don't get a good education. And you and I know in America, if we have a good education, we can be successful in many different ways. Yeah, we can become engineers, we can be business owners, we can whatever, as long as we have good education. But that is not good for the benefit, the self-interest of the Democratic Party.
Because they want power, right?
They want power, yeah. Everything is to do with incentives, right?
How do you get their supporters, voters, to realize that they're just using you to gain power and keep you dependent on government and welfare and doing identity politics and tell you cannot succeed because your skin color. But look at you and me, like we all came here in the hole. Like I was in debt, $1,200, could not even speak English, almost 24 years old. We all share same stories, but we are living American dream today. That's why we don't buy into that entitlement attitude. We are victims. It's like people don't know what they're talking about when they talk about enslavement and oppression, because we were enslaved and we're oppressed. But no, this is America. You will think American dream is all about, if you work hard and you save money, you get a good education, you're going to live in American dream. And this is a country of the equal opportunity, land of the opportunity. So they say, so like you said, there are lots of Asian Americans out. They still vote for Democrat. Do they understand when they say these educational issues? You would think they should start wake up, right?
Yeah, I do see that a lot of Chinese parents they're starting to see the problem, and especially now in California, they take out honors program, they take out AP courses. The Asian parents are not going to go along with it because they knew that that's their way to get onto a good life, to realize the American dream is to have a good education. Like you and I know, wherever doesn't matter where any city, the Asian parents always go to live in a good school district because they want their kids to have good education. But now when they took out the AP, took out honors, I think Asian parents are not going to be. They'll be motivated to make change.
Good, that's good. I'm glad for those parents. I think they did take out the very lefty San Francisco area school boards, and they also went to protest in Los Angeles school district. It's like taking out their honor classes, and it's almost like they call that it's racist. It's like everything's racist, massive racist. Honor classes are racist. It's actually it really punishes high achieving and students. And it's better for a country, like you said. We cannot compete with other Asian countries who graduate, high quality students with high skills and talents. And so your model micro school you talk about will be teachers and start on those schools. And the parents are waiting to pay for it. It's basically small private schools now.
Right. Yeah, it's a small private school, and maybe about 20 students, kind of in that scale. 10 to 20 students.
So is that kind of like a pod school? Like some people it's like a pod, right? Like learning pod.
Right. It's kind of like learning pod, which is kind of mushroom during the pandemic.
Well, yeah, because you still have like a group interaction, and the parents can join. They put money together to hire teachers they like, and some
Yeah,
I saw some churches start to have school too, like
right,
have their own school program.
yeah. But I actually, in a way, I would like teachers to own the school, not the parents owning the school, because in a way that uh, I think you want the teacher, you want the teacher's incentive tied with the success of the school. If we just like parents hire a teacher, then the teacher just only trying to please the parents instead of focusing on the student's success. But I want to have a direct relationship in that way. And
Well,
then
that'd be ideal. That'd be ideal, right?
Yeah.
But how many percentage of teachers that you know are ready to be entrepreneurs and have skin in the game and really want to do this instead of just teach and and be part of
Right,
union leader and the teachers union member and don't really have a room to be even creative to
right, right,
do something exciting.
right. Well, I don't expect that many teachers who wants to own their school because that's got so used. It's kind of like remember when we started in China when they opened up, right? We have the same problem. Is that most of the people do not want to work hard, but only just a few, very very a tiny percentage, and they start to work hard and they start building a business. But before long, everybody saw, oh, if I work hard, I can make a lot more money. So that then you can see a lot of business started up. Um, uh, I don't know if you remember this back then, how hard it is to make the change for the under Deng Xiaoping, how he switched from a socialist economy to a capitalist economy. I mean, it was very, very difficult. He faced a lot of oppositions, and a lot of people do not want to, the benefit, in that kind of system. You don't have to work; you just show up.
And now remember, it's called going to the sea. That means leave your state
right,
enterprise factory job to start your own business called going
right,
to the sea. But people who go into the sea first got
right,
rich in China in the
right,
80s and 90s,
right, yeah,
and China's economic reform, even though they still call that, China economy with like a socialist characteristics, but it's actually a mix of some free market and some
right,
private enterprise.
yeah,
With China's, so-called socialist country, but still, that's just economy boom. That's why China, the people were starving under Mao, and when Mao died, we faced a complete collapse of China's economy. That's
right,
when Deng Xiaoping said, when he saw when peasants get together in Sichuan
mm-hmm,
and say, "Hey, you decide what to grow. You turn percentage over to the government. You keep all the
right,
rest."
right,
And the agriculture production just went to tenfold.
yeah, exactly,
Even without the central government involvement. I see that when Deng Xiaoping heard that report, then he
mm-hmm,
said, "Well, let's
yeah,
watch them for a while instead of punish them for doing that."
right,
And
right,
later
right,
he said, "Yeah, let's imitate that model. Why not?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
tenfold of production levels." And
right, and
but in
I
this
remember,
country, Dr. King, our kids don't know. They're demonized capitalism and free market right now. They're demonized it. Profits are
right,
bad.
right,
Rich people suck the rich. Remember, make them to pay higher taxes
right,
and give
right.
us some.
Yeah. Do you remember actually the slogan by then? One of the slogans is let a few people get rich first.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a few people
So,
get rich. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're white cat or black cat. If
yeah.
you can catch rats,
You can
you're a
just
good
map
cat.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he was not a big ideologue, even though
Yeah.
he was still a communist leader and had blood on his hands, crushed
Right.
the Tian'anmen Square.
Right.
But on the economical opening up policy side, he got lots of support. He was being practical to say, hey, let some people get rich first. There's nothing
Right.
wrong to let people get rich first.
Right.
But when we were little, though, growing up under Mao, if you're rich, you are black class. You go
Right.
to
Yeah.
special sessions.
Exactly.
You're bad.
It's bad. Yeah. If you get rich, you are bad. Yeah.
And I see today's indoctrination in our schools. That's what they're teaching kids. America is bad.
Right.
Capitalists are bad. Profits are bad. And they all blame problems on the rich people
Right.
who created jobs. You volunteer byproducts from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally wrong with our education, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I see the parallel here. Right now, our education is really is facing a collapse, and we really need to free it up and just let a few people start their own schools, and then we start a competition, the free market competition, so that the parents have the choice to go school A versus school B. And so that way, I mean, you can, and also the teacher's incentive is tied with student success. Then you can see some good schools will pop up.
Well, I hope that is happening, and the trend, is that more and more parents taking their kids out of public schools, indoctrination centers, and more states are passing laws about school choice fund the students, not the systems.
Right.
And but whenever you use the public government like taxpayers' money, though, you gotta be careful also about the data privacy, because there are lots of regulations.
Right.
And it's like when it's the strings attached to this money. But like what you suggested, free market, parents get together and pay teachers who started their own schools and small micro schools, like 20, 30 students. Sounds really good. I actually met some people like that in Texas. But you have to look at the state laws allow that. How does that work? What is regulation on that? Because
well,
how about Indiana?
In Indiana, if you are a small private school, there's really right now there is no regulation on that. So it's something new, and I think before long the politicians will get into this. So they're probably going to put some laws, regulations on that. But so far, right now, it's pretty open. I mean, you pretty much can do a lot of things right now.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm trying to kind of help teachers and parents understand is that I mean, it's good to take your kids out of public school, but that is the first step. You have to realize that our education model is outdated. So you cannot just say, okay, I leave public school, but I bring school home. You have to start a different kind of education. And also, we want to train the kids into entrepreneurs, help them, to become business owners. And that's something new, because a lot of parents, they just want the kids to find a career and work for someone, but that become harder and harder now. I mean, you look like the statistic over years, like the percentage of freelancers is increasing like crazy, and eventually, I mean, most of people will have to work as freelancers, which that means you basically own your own business. But then we have to educate the kids in that way so that they have the financial, have the financial literacy, have the math literacy, and the language literacy to be able to, to be successful in this kind of the new economy.
Yeah, some people they say, yeah, middle class, maybe parents who are able to afford private micro school like that, that's great. But but lots of other working poor class and poor people, like they're stuck in the public schools unless you state allow like school choice. They can have choice because they have to rely on public funding because they don't have money to pay another $5,000 a year or something like that, or $6,000 themselves. And so that's something that I think each individual state has to really work on that to address that. But I like this model because at least we can start somewhere, especially for the teachers who are even some just teacher in the middle who know what's going on in today's schools and don't like it, but they're so afraid to speak up. If you speak up, you're gonna lose contract. You're gonna be targeted, and because it's all basically those like a Marxist-minded left ideologies are dominating our schools and pushing the conservatives either out or hide in the closet. They have to keep their head down. It's so. Can you be happy when you do that for a long time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about your book again, so people can check you out and what social medias you have.
I have two books. One is called "Our Kids Are Not Prepared," so that just say what's wrong, not only what's wrong, but also what are the solutions. That's just purely on education. My second book is called "A Spectre is Hunting America," and that actually it was in a way inspired by the Communist Manifesto. In the Communist Manifesto, the first sentence is "A spectre is hunting Europe." So we basically talk about spectre of communism. But now this ghost, spectre means ghost. So now the ghost is hunting America. And I think it's, you and I, we kind of have similar experiences. Like all of a sudden it's kind of, what happened? The communists took over the education already. 2 or 3 years ago, if someone tell me that, I won't believe him. But that is truth right now. So I kind of wrote the book last year is to basically saying, to make the case, it is the specter of communism, the ghost communism is here, and it has controlled many institutions. like the media, the entertainment industry, education, even the law. So we need to wake up, and especially the conservatives need to wake up. That now our problem is not just with the liberals. Our problem actually is with communism, and a lot of liberals, they do not know. They do not know that was the case. But us conservatives needs to realize that and fall back and really need to get into education. Like I think we gave away a long time ago because of the teachers union that conservatives can stay away from education, but we cannot keep doing that. We have to take it over. We have to take back education.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we will put your book links and your Facebook and Twitter links in the description, and hope people will share this video, get the words out. And it's so important for us to offer our perspective as immigrants who love this country, and because we see the writings on the wall, and it's not option for us just to stay quiet and say nothing, because our children's American dreams are at stake. Our country freedom is at stake.
It is.
So, yeah, I hope you can spread the words and come back, join us again someday.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Ping.
You're welcome. Yeah,
and
I hope,
go to locals.com. We're on locals.com if you want to become a member and support us.
Okay.
And yeah, we will continue this program every week.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
hope. I hope I can meet you in summer when the school is out.
Yes, welcome to come to New Hampshire, live free or die state.
Yeah,
We're trying to keep that way. Yes.
Right.
Okay, 再见, bye bye. Bye.
Bye.